everything is resting in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As described in Bhagavad Gita, Matstani Sarvabhutani. That is the vision of Mahabharata. He sees everything others see, but instead of seeing merely the trees, the mountains, the cities or the sky, he sees only his worshipable Supreme Personality of Godhead in everything, because everything is resting in him only. This is the vision of Mahabharata. In summary, a Mahabharata, a highly elevated pure devotee, sees the Lord everywhere, as well as within the heart of everyone. This is possible for devotees who have developed elevated devotional service to the Lord, as stated in Brahma Samhita. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santasavdaiva Hrudayeshu Vilokayante. Only those who have smeared their eyes with the ointment of love of Godhead can see everywhere by Supreme Lord face to face. It is not possible by imagination or so-called meditation. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text number 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Variyan Esha Te Prashnaha Variyan Esha Te Prashnaha Krutaha Lokahitam Drupa Kruto Lokahitam Drupaha Atmavet Sammataha Pumsham Atmavit Sammataha Pumsham Shrotaha Vyadishu Yaha Paraha Shrota Vyadishu Yah Paraha. Sri Shuka Uvacha Variyanyesha Te Prashnaha Kruto Lokahitam Drupa Atmavid Sammatah Pumsham Srota Vyadishu Yah Paraha. Sri Shuka Uvacha. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Varyan, glorious, Yeshaha, this, Te, Yuva, Prashnaha, question, Kritaha, made by you, Lokahitam, beneficial for all men, Drupa, O King, Atmavet, transcendentalist, Sammataha, approved, Pumsham, of all men, Shrotavya Adishu, in in all kinds of hearing. Yaha, what is? Paraha, the Supreme. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation, Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing and is approved by the all transcendentalists." Kindly repeat the translation. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter of hearing and it is approved by all transcendentalists." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Purport. Even the very question is so nice that it is the best subject matter for hearing. Simply by such questioning and hearing, one can achieve the highest perfectional stage of life. Because Lord Krishna is the original Supreme Person, any question about Him is original and perfect. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the highest perfection of life is to achieve the transcendental loving service for Krishna. Because questions and answers about Krishna elevate one to the transcendental position, the questions of Maharaj Parikshit about Krishna philosophy are greatly glorified. Maharaj Parikshit wanted to absorb his mind completely in Krishna, and such absorption can be effected simply by hearing about the uncommon activities of Krishna. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita it is stated that simply by understanding the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna's appearance, disappearance and activities, one can immediately return home back to Godhead and never come back to this miserable condition of material existence. It is very auspicious, therefore, to hear always about Krishna. So Maharaj Parikshit requested Shukadeva Goswami to narrate the activities of Krishna so that he could engage his mind in Krishna. The activities of Krishna are non-different from Krishna himself. As long as one is engaged in hearing such transcendental activities of Krishna, he remains aloof from the conditional life of material existence. The topics of Lord Krishna are so auspicious that they purify the speaker, the hearer, and the inquirer. They are compared to the Ganges waters which flow from the toe of Lord Krishna. Wherever the Ganges water go, they purify the land and the person who bathes in them. Similarly, Krishna Katha, or the topics of Krishna, are so pure that wherever they are spoken, the place, the hearer, the inquirer, the speaker, and all concerned become purified. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we are starting the new canto, that is second canto. So before we get into the actual verse that what we have cited just now, we will try to overview the whole the second canto, how it is described and all these things. So before this first verse, in the invocation, Prabhupada gives a small purport in that he says that the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the principle of the creation are described, and thus the first canto may be called as creation. So in the first canto, that whatever we have been discussing, the complete detail of the creation has been given in detail. So in continuation to that, Prabhupada says, similarly in the second canto, the post-creation cosmic manifestation is described. The different planetary systems are described in the second canto as different parts of the universal body of the Lord. For this reason, the second canto may be called as the cosmic manifestation, which means that in the first canto we have seen the creation, how it is emanating from Mahavishnu and all other different details. And now in this canto, we will in detail try to discuss how the next process will happen, that is the cosmic manifestation. So that's why the second canto is named as the cosmic manifestation. So the second canto, we can try to see that about three different modules or whatever we call it as. So in the first aspect, the first part, that is from about first to third chapters of this second canto, it is described in detail about the Bhakti Yoga, the superiority of the Bhakti Yoga. Because in the sages of Naimisharanya, where they have assembled, there are a lot of sages who will be thinking about different yoga processes like Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and then demigod worship. All these things they will be thinking they are all different superior subject matters. But Shukadeva Goswami in detail discusses about the superiority of Bhakti Yoga, and he clears all the doubts of all these sages. So that's what happens in the first to third chapters. And then in the next 4th to 7th chapter, Parikshit Maharaj asks few more questions. So he asks in details about Sarga and Visarga, that is primary creation and the secondary creation, like how Mahavishnu, whatever he creates, that is called as basically the primary creation, and then Brahma, whatever he starts creating, that's called as the secondary creation. So all these questions will be asked by Maharaj Parikshit, and these will be cleared by Shukadeva Goswami through the Brahma and Narada conversations. Like there are a lot of conversations goes on in the 4th and 7th chapter. So through these conversations, these questions will be clear to Parikshit Maharaj. And what happens at the flag end of this particular canto? There Parikshit Maharaj questions few more questions, very important questions, and all these things will be answered by Shukadeva Goswami through the conversations of Brahma and Krishna, and then apart from that few more questions will be answered through the conversations of Vidura and Maitreya. Of course, this overflows to even the third canto as well. So this is the overall view of the second canto, how it goes about and all that. So now let's look at this second canto, first chapter. What happens in the first chapter? In the first chapter, about let's say around 10 verses, as I was telling in the beginning, the superiority of the Bhakti Yoga will be described in detail, and also it will be described about Grihamedi's life and what is Grihastha and what is Grihamedi. So all these details will be given in the first 10 shlokas, and then in between about let's say 3-4 verses, the quality of the life of a human being, why it is meant for. It is not that quantity, how many years that we live on this in this material world, and what kind of things that we do, that's not important. But what exactly that we do, the inquiries, the kind of inquiries. So he gives the example of Katvanga Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj and all these things. So then finally at the end, about after 20th verse or so, Ashtanga Yoga and all these details, and also Virata Rupa of the Lord, like whatever we study in Bhagavad Gita, in detail, like how this cosmic manifestation is compared to the different parts of the body of the Lord, is completely very nicely matched, and it's been given in the final verses of this first chapter. So now we will try to see what exactly is Prabhupada is trying to tell in the first verse of this second canto. So here the translation says, "My dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people." It's very, very important, you see. Like Prabhupada says in many, many different places, our human life is meant for questioning, right? From childhood, we keep on asking so many questions. What is this? What is that? Why get that chocolate and whatever. So many questions we keep asking. And when we grow up little bit, and we ask for something else, we start inquiring about opposite sex, and we are inquiring about some money wealth, women, wine, all these things. The way that you start questioning will be completely changed when you become adult. So similarly, when you grow up, become a little more older. So then your question, your queries will be different. Then you will understand all this money and all these things doesn't matter for me. So now I need something else, that is spirituality. So that's the reason that many old people, they try to come towards spirituality and all that. But overall, if you see, the whole human life, it is meant for questioning. Even a lot of people, the general public, whoever, even the spiritualists, even they feel that the questioning is a fundamental right that we have to question, right? But unfortunately, the different governments, what do they do is, the moment you question, you will be suppressed. I was just going through some internet articles in different parts of the globe. Lot of people, they are questioning about the governments and the way the advancement is happening and all these things. But everywhere people are suppressed just like that. Like for example, in China, most of you might be knowing there is something called as Alibaba.com, right? The founder of this Alibaba.com is Mr. Jack Ma. He's somebody like that, who is there in our India, like Dhirubhai Ambani and all these people. So exactly is about a year back, this Jack Ma, what he did is, in one of his speech or a conversation in a school or a college, he said, the banking system of China is very, very bad. It should be thrashed or it should be developed. Something like that, opposite to the government, he commented. That's all. Chinese government becomes so activated and immediately all his businesses got audited and he was just pulled down. And today, you believe it or not, nobody knows where Jack Ma is. So that's how, when somebody is asking something, people are suppressed. And look at Myanmar, in the Burma, what is happening. Just few months back, the people started questioning the government. Your ruling is not good. You should get out of this particular, whatever ruling and all those things. Then immediately the military came into the picture and they started opening the fire. And hundreds and thousands of people, they died in the whole revolution. And similarly, you look at US, a few months or years back, what happened there, basically all over the world, India is known for the casteism. They say that in India, there's a lot of casteism. They always see the upper class caste and lower class and all that. But if you see in US, even there is also same thing. They always say, even Prabhupada says in so many conversations, why are you thinking like that? You're white and you're black and all these things. So even today, at this such an advanced stage, all these things are currently continuing. They always minimize the black people. Recently, a few months back, there was one person by name George Floyd. So he went to some store to buy some things and he picked up some quarrel and immediately the store fellow, he called 911. Then the policeman came there and they said, what's happening? And they understood the situation and they tried arresting this George Floyd immediately. They arrested him and they took him near the police jeep and he was not ready to get into the police jeep. And immediately they started pushing a lot of pressure on his neck and within 9 to 10 minutes this fellow died over a period of time. Then this became a very big movement across US. A lot of people, they questioned American government. Why this racism? Why you people are discriminating black and white and all these things? Thousands and lakhs of people, they came onto the road. And immediately what the government did? Immediately they opened the fire, military here, there and all, hundreds of people, they were put into the jail and all these things. See, the moment you start asking what the government will do, they will suppress. It's completely opposite to the human nature or even what the scriptures are recommending. Not only in US, even you take the USSR, there is one person by name Alexei Navalny. It is said this is the person whom even Russia's president, Mr. Putin, is cared about. For the past 3-4 years, he is running a lot of movements that yes, Putin should go down. Actually, Putin is running his own government for more than about 20 years or so. So he is running a big movement. The moment Putin realized this person is going to be a troublesome person for me, he started chasing behind him. Wherever he is traveling the flight, they started putting some poisonous needles so that he will get poisoned, slow poison and all these things. Everywhere, see, the moment you question, you will be suppressed. Why so much internationally and all that? Look at even our own states and everywhere. Like recently, one of the member of parliament, he questioned one of the chief minister of one state. What is this? Such a bad chief minister he is. He is a very very bad administrator, and he has a lot of bad background and all these things. The moment he said, then CBI and all these people, they came into the picture and they took him out and put him into the jail and beaten him up nicely and all these things. This is the current culture. But completely contrary to this, the spirituality allows questioning. This, the scriptures, they say, you have to inquire. That's why it is said, Athato Brahma Jignasa. We have to ask. Unless you ask, how do you, get any answers, right? Here nobody, we cannot know what is inside your mind, and simply we start talking, right? Somebody, we don't know something, we should start asking. Only then we will be able to get some answers. But we should also know where we have to get all these answers from. According to the scriptures, there are many different ways how we will try to get this knowledge or acquire knowledge. So the first one is Pratyaksha Pramana. That is, I'll not get into the more details because most of you might be knowing. Pratyaksha Pramana, just by seeing is believing. That's what it's called as Pratyaksha Pramana. And this is like modern way of thinking. Unless I see, I will not believe. Like if we say the God is existing, people will ask, okay, you show me the God, only then I will believe, right? So that's one of the way that we try to acquire the knowledge. And second thing, Anumana Pramana, like mental concoctions. We try to contemplate what is this, either this or not. Like, we try to contemplate and then we try to come to a conclusion. That is Anumana Pramana. And the third one is Shabda Pramana, and this is very, very bona fide way of acquiring the knowledge. That's the reason why, because all our senses and sense perception, all these are very, very limited and imperfect. So that's the reason we should never ever try to get the knowledge by doing these two varieties of activities. But whereas Shabda Pramana, through the oral reception, by listening to the Parampara, the scriptures, the gurus who are authorized, we have to hear from them and we have to inquire from them, and we should try to get the answers from all these authorized bona fide scriptures or the acharyas. So that's why Srila Prabhupada has encouraged all his disciples that you should inquire more and more, you have to ask more and more. And that's the reason he has even introduced earlier, when he was there on this planet Earth, he introduced morning walk conversations, which are very, very interesting. All of us, we enjoy, right? By listening to this morning walk conversation. They're so interesting. So many people, different varieties of people, they come and ask Prabhupada, what is this and what is that? Prabhupada so nicely he explains and convinces them very patiently. So I was just going through one of the memory of one of the devotee by name Brahmananda Prabhu. So he recalls how this whole morning conversations have started. It's very interesting scenario how the whole thing happened. In 1970s, it's early in, the ISKCON has been started. So still Prabhupada was there in the Second Avenue. So one final day, he was very sick. He was very unhealthy. So he was taking rest in the temple. It's a very small room, a temple hall, like there is no more rooms and all those things. So Prabhupada is taking rest, and his temperatures are going on, increasing continuously. So the devotees are all little worried. It's a very winter season, very cold and all these things. And how do we now, get treated Prabhupada? So then immediately Brahmananda Prabhu, because he is from the same city, he calls his family doctor. My dear doctor, please come down. My spiritual master is a little sick. Can you please come and try to treat him? So then he says, oh no, I'm out of station. Because it's a weekend, usually in the US, nobody will stay in their homes. They always want to be out of the home for enjoyment or whatever it is and all that. So he's out. So then immediately what he will do, he will take in yellow pages and will start seeing all the different doctors' names and all that, and will start calling one by one. So, but most of them, they will tell, we are all out. Nobody is available and all that. But finally, he could able to get one doctor, very peculiar doctor. He will get the doctor and he will come to the small temple, that whatever it was there at the time, and he goes near Prabhupada and he checks his pulse and the body and different parts of the body. And he says, he comes out after some time, he will not tell near Prabhupada anything. He just comes out and he says, well, I checked this old man. Looks like this old man prays a lot. But now this is the time that he should stop doing all these things and he should go out of this temple and he should start walking and doing little bit of exercises. Then all these devotees, by listening to this, they'll think, oh, this fellow is a crazy doctor. What is that he is talking about? He's telling Prabhupada to stop chanting and praying and all these things? There's no way, right? So then simply they will neglect all his comments and all that. So then Prabhupada's fever will start increasing. Then invariably they will take him and admit to a hospital. So the moment Prabhupada gets admitted to hospital, then some doctors will treat him, and over a period of time he will get cured. And he comes out of the hospital and he says, I didn't like this treatment in this hospital. That first doctor who came to treat me in the temple, what he said looks like correct. I think we should go out and start doing some morning walks. This will definitely help us. So that's how, from that next day onwards, Prabhupada started going out from the temple early in the morning, about 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and with his disciples and GBC members or whoever was available along with him. And he started doing these morning walk conversations along with the seashore or the parks or wherever it is possible and all that. So from that day onwards, wherever Prabhupada was there, it may be a winter, snowing and whatever, very summer, hot summer and all these things, but he never missed. Like Brahmananda Prabhu was telling that one day actually Prabhupada met with an accident in the Mauritius. In spite of that one, next day morning, he comes down and wakes up everyone, hey, come on, let's go to the morning walk. Because Prabhupada thought that these morning walks are very important, and it's clearing a lot of questions and the doubts of all his disciples. So that's how Prabhupada introduced these morning walk conversations in the ISKCON society, and they're so famous every day. And that's how we see that, all different parts of, all different books which are written by Prabhupada, they're mostly of the conversations. You take perfect question, perfect answers, right? Mr. Bob and Prabhupada's conversations and many other, so interesting, right? Well, because if you give like some Sanskrit text and all that to people to read, they may not be so much interested. They may lose interest over a period of time. But when you give in the format of a conversation, then definitely they would read that and try to get attracted towards the moment of ISKCON. Many books you take, The Life Comes from Life and, Science of Self-Realization. All these books are full of conversations. And even you take Bhagavatam, how this Bhagavatam came into the existence. All of us, we know very well that Parikshit Maharaj started inquiring. That's the main reason why this Bhagavatam came to the existence. Right? So otherwise we would have not definitely, today we'll be discussing about Bhagavatam. At the time, the King Parikshit was so responsible, and that's the reason he asked such a beautiful questions, and that's the reason Shukadeva Goswami is telling, oh my dear king, your question is glorious, because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people. But if you look at today's modern kings, the so-called prime ministers or the presidents and all these people, they are not at all worried about this welfare of the society. They are worried about only the economic growth, the increasing the military, all these things they are not at all worried about. So that is the reason they only ask that kind of questions. How do I take my country, make my country to be more powerful, or make this economical growth to be more and more, so the success of a prime minister is now measured on all these things, not on how happy the people in that particular country. They're all measured on based on the economical growth. Like earlier, India was in the about 10th or 11th position across the globe. But now today, because of the current prime minister, it has gone to 5th position. So now everybody is glorifying, oh, this prime minister is good, that, this and all these things. But we should understand that this economical growth and all these things are completely temporary. Just look at this corona or the COVID virus. Because of this small virus, all these economical numbers and all these things all come down just like that. One small virus can make it zero down. All the stock markets are, Mumbai Stock Exchange or NSE or whatever you call them as, everything has gone down for the past 2 years now. Just because of one small virus which is invisible to our eyes. So that's a kind of, the economical growth that we are all looking at. But because Parikshit is so responsible, so that's the reason he was asking such a responsible question. And Shukadeva Goswami was answering so beautifully. So the saintly people are meant for clearing these kind of questions and the doubts. So that's the reason in general public, there is a normal tendency that when you see a saffron, they will try to ask some questions. But usually what happens, they don't ask these kind of questions. Like, a few years back, I was traveling to Vrindavan by a train. So I was sitting in a compartment and so one person came into the compartment and he started asking, Swamiji, mera haath dekhta hai kya aap? So this is the conception where all these people, what they will be thinking. They never think, Hare, I'm suffering so much. Why can't I ask why these so many sufferings are coming into my life? Who am I? Where do I come from? These questions nobody will ask. They'll all ask, how about my wealth? What will happen to me in the future? All these things. They never ask about all these things. So that's the reason we, being the disciples of Prabhupada, we should be more and more responsible to ensure that we deliver the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, what it is meant for, right? It is meant for to give the answers for those perfect questions. That why all these human beings are suffering? What will happen to these human beings after their death? So when somebody is highly intellectual, they will try to think and ask in those levels. But otherwise, the lower intellectual human beings will ask only lower questions. So that's the reason, if you see even Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's so many conversations, right? Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has conversed with Ramananda Raya, Keshav Kashmiri, and King Prataparudra and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and he went to Srirangam there with Venkata Bhatta, then Nawab Chand Kazi, and all these, so many varieties of people, they inquired so many beautiful things which are required for the human being. They have not asked, where do I get my food? Where do I get my shelter? How do I clear my difficulties? These are the questions which are not asked by them, because they are so highly intellectual. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so beautifully answered them through the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it came to existence. So similarly, even Science of Self-Realization, there is one beautiful thing, where Prabhupada says, the lessons from this incident is that, maybe let me read out that incident also. When I was a young boy, when I was a young father in my householder life, I was over-flooded with hundreds of questions from my second son, who was my constant companion. One day, it so happened that a bridegroom's party was passing our tram car, and the 4-year-old boy, as usual, inquired what the big procession was. He was given all possible answers to his 1001 questions regarding the marriage party. And finally, he asked whether his own father was married, right? See, these children, they have very inquisitiveness. They'll ask so many questions, He was asking Prabhupada's one of the son, he was asking, Father, what is that? All this party which is going on and all that. Prabhupada answers him so patiently about all this marriage party and all that. And finally, he asked, my dear father, are you also married? Right? So, it may look very foolish question, but the children, they have got so much inquisitiveness. It is the responsibility of a parent that he should patiently answer the children's question. He should never suppress any of these inquiries. Unfortunately, many of the parents, they don't know how to answer them. So that's why, first of all, the parents should get educated about all these things, and then they can easily answer all these questions. If you remember in our childhood and all that, whenever some summer holidays or the vacation comes, we used to go to our grandparents' home or the hometown and all that, right? So the moment we go there, we used to meet them, and grandparents used to tell us so beautiful stories from the Ramayana, Mahabharatam, and all these beautiful characters and all that. So by listening to them, we used to get so many morals. That's the time where we can build the children's future. In Telugu we tell, right, Mokkai Vanganadi, Manai Vanguna. So that when the child, when he's so small, when he's in a tender age, that's the time that we should try to mold these children, so that they will become a very responsible citizen over a period of time in the future. But otherwise, they don't do all these things. The parents, they don't do all these things when the child is very young. But when they come to the college, like intermediate, +2 and all these things, then they get into the bad association and they will repent. Oh my God, what is this my son is doing? He's going on smoking, he's drinking, and he's being, behind the girls, he's dating, whatnot, so many other things. Why this boy is doing so many things? But the mistake is from the parents, because they have not answered properly. They have not given a proper path to the child. So that's the reason a parent should be responsible to make this child to become surrender to a proper master, that is especially the spiritual master. Only then the child can become a very, very successful and a very good citizen of this country. So just before we conclude, even in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says in this purport also, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita it is stated that simply by understanding the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna's appearance, disappearance and activities, one can immediately return home back to Godhead and never come back to this miserable condition of material existence. So this should be the goal of every human being. We should try to get out of this material existence, material world. And we should try to inquire, how do I do that? And even in Bhagavad Gita, it is also said, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So you have to find out a very good acharya who is a bona fide authority, bona fide acharya, and you have to serve him first. Pariprashnena sevaya. You have to serve him very nicely, and then in a very, very humble mode, you have to inquire from him. My dear spiritual master, what is this? What is that? How can I get out of this material world? Please guide me. When you inquire him in such a humble mode, then you can get the proper answers from the spiritual master. So these are the questions which are glorious. That's why Shukadeva Goswami says, my dear king, your question is glorious because it is beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all the transcendentalists. So we should try to listen from him and try to implement them practically, whatever the acharyas they give us the answer, and only then we can become successful in our whole life. So with this text, that what we can try to understand, or the take home point is that we should always inquire only about Lord Krishna, which is prime subject matter of inquiring and hearing. Because of doing this, not only the audience, the inquirer and even the speaker also will get purified. That is the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So it is very much advised, wherever and whenever, whatever the situation we are, we should always just inquire and discuss about the prime subject matter of hearing, that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. So this is what has been said here in this purport. With this, I close this. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.
హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణ వాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం, భగవద్గీత, భాగవత ప్రవచనాలు, స్ఫూర్తి సందేశాలు, ఇంకా మరెన్నో సదుపాయాలతో హరే కృష్ణ వాణి మొబైల్ యాప్ నేడే డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోండి. మరిన్ని వివరాల కోసం కాల్ చేయండి 9133107700.